talking about systems and just needing to completely rethink, another challenge that has been top of mind for many leaders is the future of work, hybrid workplaces, and Minal, maybe you can speak to what leaders can do to really be creating inclusive and equitable hybrid workspaces.
Yeah, so it's going to vary by industry and by job function, right? So I really liked what Evans put out, a blog post on hybrid workplaces, and they said it's really important to be able to have conversations about which jobs make a lot of sense and can easily work remotely, which ones can easily be hybrid, and which ones really are needed to be like in the building, right? Like my husband's a firefighter and paramedic. You cannot do that remotely or telecommute for that job, right? Like that is, you need to be like on site for it. So you want to first have those conversations. And then, we can give like tips or tricks, like how to include people in video meetings where like, if you're in the office, everybody should be on camera, but you use a room mic, so on and so forth. But not all of this is sorted out. So this is going to be a time of experimentation and iteration and like refining. And what needs to be at the root of those processes are these values of sovereignty and interdependence. Because that's really what we're talking about when we talk about equity. We're talking about how do we respect an individual's sovereignty and autonomy and right to make decisions that serve them, and balance that with the needs of the community, right? And it is not always it's not always a win-win. It's not always an easy equation. If you can rumble with it and rumble with uncertainty and uncomfortable feelings and conflict, like conflict is like a huge part of this, like, and being competent in being able to address conflict, because the minute you have more diversity, you have more different opinions, you have more different life experiences, and not everything is easily resolvable. But if you can rumble with it, you can usually come up with really innovative, creative solutions that serve the community, as well as allow people some autonomy in their jobs and their lives.
Yeah. Thank you, Minal. I'd like to turn to Barrie now, and drawing from your experience in leading global teams, can you tell us a little bit about what practices you use to build and maintain a sense of connection across geographical distance?
Yes. I want to say I think this is a huge challenge for global organizations, because somehow the physical distance is affects your head. You're thinking about the closeness and distance of where people really are. You know, they're really only a phone call or a Zoom call away, but it feels like, wow, they're still so far. And it's a mindset shift to be able to really think about the connection. But at Global Coaches Network, we used to start right away in the interviewing process. So bringing people in with the intention of learning about them, orienting them to Global Coaches Network, so that we knew them personally, we knew them professionally, and they knew us personally and professionally. So that was started in the interview process. And then the next piece was to orient them and connect them with other coaches. So we did orientation sessions for them about our approach to coaching and what was unique about it, how to talk about it, those sorts of things. And then they met other new coaches during those orientation sessions. And then there were gatherings. We had gatherings and we had speakers where we invited the whole community to come. And even when we were up to 300 and some coaches, still, we still had those gatherings on Zoom. And again, the part of the issue is rotating the meetings. So as much as I hate meetings at 8 o'clock at night, you have to do them because it's like 8 or 9 in China, So that consideration, that's a big consideration for people, that you meet during their time zone, because so many, I hate to say this, so many people are so ignorant about how they schedule their meetings with people in other countries. So, and then the other people feel devalued when they're asked to get on a call at 2 o'clock US time, 2 o'clock AM their time, and whatever it was US time. So anyway, that was a consideration. And then of course, when we worked together, one of the things that in the beginning, I thought, well, how much do I want to involve myself in supervising these work projects? Because they're professionals, they're coaches, they've been doing this for 10 years, they know how to do things. They know our orientation now. But I found that they actually wanted the supervision. they wanted somebody in there to talk with. They wanted to learn while they were engaged in the work process. So whether it was with teams or individuals or, groups of some sort. So we did a lot of, with senior coaches, myself and senior coaches actually, supervising, leading groups and supervision kinds of issues. So, and that connected people also. So I feel they felt connected as much as you can. I mean, I felt they knew we tried, and that mattered to them. I think making the effort, it's a lot about the people you work with knowing the effort that you're trying to be fair and equitable about how you connect with them, and that matters to you. They matter to you.
Right. So I heard there's a logistical piece, but also that human element of that starts right from the moment you hired them, right? So, going off the topic of global organizations, and Minal, you already touched on this, increasing diversity in organizations. So I know in Equity, you talk a lot about the need to not just acknowledge, but value differences. So what can leaders do to do that?
Yeah, so I loved what Barrie said, that it's about these sort of small steps are about communicating that you value people, and that there has been such a history of dehumanizing certain types of people that we really have to take intentional effort to rehumanize them. And that starts with valuing difference, which is actually can be pretty hard for some people. Most of us have been really socialized to be afraid of difference. And when I say socialized, I don't just mean intellectually, viscerally. The fear that comes up is viscerally in our bodies. And so sometimes our gut and our instinct is reacting to the ways in which we're socialized, not to the reality of the situation. And so we have to do a lot of inner work in order to learn how to respond to difference in an affirming way while still being able to maintain good judgment. This is not saying let's abandon judgment and it's kumbaya and everybody should be welcome in. There is a need for boundaries, but you need to understand how your own mind works to understand, am I reacting to this person because of a very good sense of boundaries or what I need? Or am I reacting based on how I've been socialized to think of people like this, right? Am I afraid of something here that is not something to be afraid of, right? So that's the first step if you really want to create an equitable organization. The second is to be able to see the system. And the system is really complex and been made invisible. But seeing the system allows you to understand how you've been socialized. So, so for example, actually just even putting out this book, and Brevity Wit has had a great year, and people have sort of congratulated me on being an entrepreneur. And we love to tell these sort of entrepreneurial stories that are very Horatio Alger tales of how we struggled and scrapped by and bootstrapped and all of these things, right? That it's not that I haven't worked hard. However, the only reason I was able to start Brevity Wit to begin with was because I got married and got on my husband's health insurance. I had tried multiple times before that as a single woman, and between health insurance and trying to make enough money, I couldn't do it. My husband's not rich, but he has great health insurance through the county. And just that 3-month buffer was enough for me to turn it from a loss into a profit. The second part of why we're doing well is because I was able to write a book during the pandemic, because I don't have children. I'm child-free, as I like to say, so I didn't have to homeschool anybody. And my husband does all of the housework. I don't do errands. I don't know how to work the laundry machine. I'm not interested in learning how to work the laundry machine. He has forbidden me from touching the laundry machine. And most women don't get that. And there was a Harvard Business Review article that if you're an ambitious woman, you should either marry a super supportive spouse or just not get married, because that's how high the stakes are, right? And so the system is designed for 2-income households. The system is designed, if you want to be an entrepreneur, to have some other source of revenue, whether that is your parents or your spouse. And until you can see that, you won't be able to address the barriers that are standing in the way of opportunity. When you're like, why don't we have more women in leadership? These are the reasons why. It's not because women don't have confidence. It's not because women are not skilled. It's not because they don't know how to negotiate. It's because of systemic reasons. There was recently a study that came out that said that it's not that women don't negotiate, it's that they are accurately perceiving that they are socially perceived as less desirable to work for when they ask for more money. There is a system that is informing how they are perceived when they do the same thing as somebody from a different identity. And so a leader, if they want to create an equitable organization, needs to see that system before they'll be able to come up with interventions and solutions that actually address the root causes. And then the last thing is that leaders need to want to use their power to create more opportunities for others. If you have an attitude of like, I'm going to get mine and that's just my job, you're not going to be able, like, don't even try, because then you're just putting lipstick on a pig, and it's going to actually make a lot of DEI work more traumatic for people who have been marginalized. If you are interested in saying, like, let's figure out ways to share power responsibly and appropriately in this organization, and I want to make sure that a lot more other people behind me have the same opportunities that I've had, then you can do something really great in your organization.
Right. So awareness and desire, some of the first steps. Barrie, anything that you'd like to add to that?
Oh, geez, so much. But the thing that I'm going to pick is that this difference piece that you started out with, Minal.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just think this is so important. I was a family therapist, couples therapist, before I became a global entrepreneur. And so I'm so aware that in families, often people are not allowed to be different. Like if you're a kid, you're not allowed to disagree with your parents, for example. Even as you're growing up, it's considered a challenge to the adults who are, of course, right about everything. So, so we learn in our families about how to deal with differences way before we ever come into organizations. And we learn about how to deal with people who are different from us outside of the family also. So we get a lot of training before we ever get into our professional roles that we don't even know is there, because it's like culture's like the air that we breathe. We don't even know it's there. It's just, we're just taking it all in. So I love, somebody asked a question about how can you see the system? And Heather, anyway, I love that question because I think that seeing the system, it's very hard to see the system. And so often many of the women that I work with, coaching or mentoring, they don't see the system. They see themselves. They think, what's wrong with me? What do I need to do? How can I make everything better? Because that's what women do. They're socialized to do. And so anyway, and so seeing the system often involves looking around and asking, is this an issue for you? There was one woman that I talked with. She thought she was in a very racist company. And she said, is this my imagination? So she started asking people. And then she found out that it was the most racist company anybody that she talked to ever worked with. And she was like, oh, geez, it wasn't just me, right? Yeah. So sometimes but that's a little tricky, asking questions like that. You be careful. So, and then sometimes discussing it with somebody outside who understands systems thinking, for example, can be a real help to you. So this could be like a whole other conference. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I thought that was such a very significant and important observation and question.
Thank you for that perspective. Believe it or not, we're almost at a time. So now I'd like to ask, one final question, maybe in like 1 minute or less, but what is the first step? What do you see as the most critical change that organizational leaders must make to face the future effectively? Where do they start? Who would like to take that first?
Wait, say it again, Alicia. I got distracted by somebody's chat message. I apologize. I was like, no, somebody has in the chat. Say it one more time for me.
Yeah, I'm thinking, it can feel overwhelming, right? Like, how do I tackle this? So what is the next first step? What is the most critical change that a leader needs to make to face the future effectively?
Okay, I can say something about this. I think they have to get very, very honest with themselves about what is my reality, and then start asking other people what is theirs. because I think there's, in the American culture in particular, it's always like there's like this culture of positivity. If you're in a room with people and you say anything like, well, I didn't like that, or I felt badly about it, I mean, it's like, whoa, how negative you are. And so you can't be real if you're not going to acknowledge. You can't change anything if you don't even know what's really going on. And this, that, and I'm a very positive person. I'm not saying, not to be positive, upbeat, but if it's not real, then it's not real. And so you have to start with the reality of what is before you can start to make any changes.
Yeah, Barrie. I mean, Barrie, you're such a kindred spirit. Like it's just like authenticity, and I would couple with that like courage.
Oh,
like,
yes.
True moral courage.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are like, if you are afraid to look at reality, if you are afraid to learn anything new, if you're afraid to engage in conflict, don't even try to do this, because you're going to make it worse, actually. Because what happens is people put out these nice statements, and then they say that they're creating an environment where everybody can bring their whole self and we're inclusive and we're diverse. But then the minute microaggressions happen or conflict raises its head, leadership retreats into like a turtle and doesn't deal with it. And so like, if you had never put out a DEI statement, somebody from a marginalized identity would know that they can be there and they're playing according to certain rules. If you put out a DEI statement and then you do that, you have actually done more harm, right? So it is better to just not do it than to do it poorly or without any courage behind it or authenticity. Mm-hmm. Like, the reason I love being a DEI practitioner is because it is the most authentic and integrity-driven field I've ever been in my life. Mm-hmm. And so we are in a point in time where humanity is facing unknown challenges, and we need courage and moral imagination more than anything else, and we need it in droves.
Mm-hmm. Thank you both. So courage and self-awareness. I want to thank you both for your time and your wonderful ideas today.